Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Watanabe. Today, this is the third day of Dev Day, and this is a recorded session. The Dev Day usually talk about the specification of development as well as improvements, management, and also the team building is a slot. And we would like to talk about the difference between the team and community. And we have Mr. Kuranuki from SonicGarden. I was talking to my manager today. More than 60% of audience is from overseas. And this is a great success in Japan as well as overseas. And as the title says, we will talk about the difference between the team and community for safe spaces and business outcomes. So the psychological safety as well as the balance with business. And not just limited to business and what is happening in the workplace. There was a presidential election yesterday, and community awareness in Japan in the divided society and what the community is. And also, we'd like to talk about Japanese-specific community from high level. And we would like to talk about 40 minutes today. Well, allow me to introduce myself. I am the Executive Officer of Stickers Communication Business at Line. My name is Watanabe. The introduction is rather long. In 2011, the Line sticker was released, and the users' communication for the Line Talk as well as creators market and UGC market I have been experiencing. And then after that, I have been looking after not just Japan, but also the businesses, sticker businesses overseas as well. We have Mr. Kuranuki with us. And again, we'd like to discuss the team and community. And even if you hear the word team and community, although you know what the words are, but it may be hard to understand the definition of the team and community. That's why we have Mr. Kuranuki with us. And sorry that I'm late to introduce Mr. Kuranuki. Will you briefly introduce yourself? Yes, my name is Kuranuki. Nice to meet you. I am running a company called SonicGarden, and the company SonicGarden is doing the system development on contract basis. And a catch copy is zero deliverable development. People think software development starts from requirements definition and estimate. But the system or the software is unpredictable, or you might want to change the system. Or the software grows in line with the business or the growth of the company. So software keeps growing, therefore it will not work if the contract ends when we deliver the product. We want to be a partner or consultant so that we can work together with the customer forever on a monthly fixed development basis. And one of the specific features is that our employees are working remotely throughout Japan, and we have about 50 employees working across 22 prefectures and working at home remotely. And many of our employees are working remotely, so we eliminated the headquarter office. So we have no head office, and all the employees work remotely. many of our employees are engineers, and how the employees can belong to the company and can communicate and work together. And the key word is community. We thought it would be nice to run the company as a community. And after the COVID-19, the remote work is increasing. And to Kuranuki-san, I believe there are a lot of media interviews for remote office. Yes, since 2016, all the employees are working remotely or since the establishment of a company. So it's just an extension of daily life. But for you all, it has become a new normal, something special for you. That's why people are paying a lot of attention to. And the remote work continues, and community is a key word. Thank you. We would like to hear about COVID-19 and also not just team building, but also community awareness is rising as well. And that is the assumption of the following discussion, I hope. There are three things that I would like to ask you today. First, well, although you have talked about it briefly, but again, why team and community? And the other is what is the difference of team and community? And lastly, how do you balance the team and community? Which do you focus or not focus at all? So we'd like to ask you three questions. And why? Well, I read your blog, by the way. That's why I wanted to talk with you. And rather than conventional businesses or KPI, the company think that the community or community awareness will be even more important than ever. And that's why I read the article and wanted to talk with you. And last month there was a monthly meeting of the stickers department and 50 or 100 employees to people. I said we want to make such a company or community. And the blog article, I believe, was well received. What is the reason that you wanted to write about the difference between the team and community? Well, since the foundation of a company, we decided not to manage people. Why? Because all our employees, or 90% of our people are engineers, software engineers, and the rest are doing marketing, and also a person like me is managing company, and we are creative, and also we are dependent on personal factors. And we thought we could not work like the factory workers. The software engineer and the creatives, how can they increase their productivity? How can they contribute to the company? And intrinsic motivation, and there is extrinsic motivation such as bonus and disciplinary actions to force people to work, whereas intrinsic motivation is for people's willingness to work. And so the individuals can raise their own motivation on their own. And for software engineers, which will let them motivate higher, the intrinsic motivation definitely. And with the disciplinary action to force them to write a good program, they will not. Unless they are willing to write the good program, the program cannot be good. So in order for them to maximize the intrinsic motivation, the extrinsic management or orders will be just feathers.
That's the reason why we decided not to do that. As a result, what happened was that the productivity of the company was enhanced and individuals are being able to work. with motivation. In the past 10 years since foundation, no one left the company to move to another company. 0 turnovers. Very rare in software development vendors. Probably it's because we focus more on intrinsic motivation. So what sort of an organization should we take? It shouldn't be hierarchical. Probably it resembles something like a teal organization. What would be the best management of a teal organization? So I looked for all those benchmarks and ideas. Well, certainly the team has become a keyword lately. So first, we thought of becoming a team with intrinsic motivations. Now, when we became a 50-strong company, we started to realize that the sense of a team gotten diluted. So how do we manage this company? Well, as you look at your organizations, maybe you can look at it from a community perspective rather than a team perspective. How can we compare community versus team as a company organization? I see. Thank you very much. So, going forward, if you want to improve your teams or your organization, rather than the extrinsic motivation, like factory workers, intrinsic motivation is extremely important. And how can you add intrinsic motivation to your employees? As you compare team versus community, community appeared to be a better approach. I see. Exactly. Well, this company has been managed with the intrinsic motivation alone. Intrinsic motivation for individuals is a good thing, but now, how can you combine those individuals into an organization? Community was the answer. I see. Now, Kuranuki-san, you have another blog post which compares knowledge workers with factory workers. I found that article very interesting as well. I would like to encourage our audience to also look at that. And you can find that blog post from this URL. Thank you. Now, probably we should move on to the main body of today's discussion. What are the differences between teams and communities? Or what are teams? What are communities to begin with? Let's start with that. Now, here's an excerpt from your blog post. Some differences in teams and communities. Teams are mission-driven, whereas communities are vision-driven. Do you think you can elaborate on this? Most certainly. Teams are easy to understand, I think, because they have a mission. The team aims to attain a certain target. Once you attain your target, it is over for that team. So there is an end point. So the teams work in order to eventually disband themselves when attaining the goals. So they're very objective-oriented. On the other hand, the communities do not have goals. There cannot be any goals because it's a well-being rather than well-doing, how people want to be being together. So it's a state of people being comfortable being together. So that's a community. So the comfort as well as how you want to be becomes your vision. Well, I understand there are overseas viewers. I don't know whether I can communicate this well enough, but let's take an analogy of gaming. If you have this adventure type of a game, your goal is to defeat the evil king as a team. So it's a team play. Let's go defeat the king. On the other hand, community seeks to be peaceful. That's a raison d'etre of a community. You just want to be peaceful. You are not going to defeat anything evil. You're just being there. So, a team will be comprised with a sufficient number of people to be able to defeat the evil king. And community would be sustainable, and there is no end to that, and it can expand to any number of people who share the same vision. So those are the differences between the teams and communities. And how to apply that to companies would be a different story, but that's how I see it. Thank you. Your analogies are very straightforward. In gaming, certainly, some characters would go out and some would seek peace. In your blog post, there was another interesting analogy that was the team is like a ship with a crew, and community is like a country. So is a team a ship with crew members? Well, actually, that's what startups would say. The company is a ship with crew on it because you have your destinations and you have to move your ship forward. If that ship is very fast, you may find some people getting seasick. They may have to disembark and be left behind because the ship has to get to the destination. Now, community, on the other hand, is like a country. There is no one left behind, as a matter of fact. Building a place where people would enjoy living, you can properly expand your territory. So the governance style is different between the two. Right, exactly. That's what I found very interesting. There is an end to a team with very clear mission. You get on the ship with your team members to find a new continent. So very clear goals are there. Once you find a new continent, then it may develop into a country. On the other hand, how can we apply that approach to our existing teams and existing organizations? What I found interesting was the second one from the bottom about recruiting. So, teams, what would be the criteria for recruiting for teams and for communities? So, recruiting by skill and recruiting by humanity is something that I found very interesting. Anything you would like to add to that? Right, certainly. Well, actually, it's not only skills and humanity. You would certainly prefer people with both, but the question is, which do you want to focus more? In case of teams, you want to have people with necessary skills to attain your goals. Probably you would need diverse skills. So the teams would be a collection of people with different expertise. Well, earlier we talked about adventure in games, but Lord of the Ring, for example, the dwarf is a main character. He is supported by sword masters and wizards, skills and expertise to bring the ring to the mountain. So that's how they recruit the team members. So the new grads, can you recruit new grads as a team? Maybe it's not very easy to do that.
Because they may inhibit As a team, it may be hard to accept. But if you think of it as a community, though, if the organization is a community instead of the team, the community will last forever. It will last forever and will stay peaceful. And if it lasts, we need a person who will bear the future. And even if they have the lack of skill, maybe the community can grow those people. And eventually, they will gain skills and help the company. So even if the people are not very helpful first, the nature of the humans, whether the person suit the place or not, is even more important. Large companies can hire new graduates, but startups cannot because we are too busy earning livings. And as the company grows, maybe it will become more of a community. Yes, certainly. For hiring new graduate, what is the point to recruit? Maybe the person was an intern, but the skill of the intern, whether that will help the company or not, it will be very uncertain. However, for community, what is the focus of new graduate for the community? And I can't agree more. When we look at new graduates, the human nature, vision, or whether they can synthesize a company's value, that is a big yardstick. And of course, having no skills at all may be too challenging. But for instance, very vague skill of what they learned at university, of course, that is important, but the human nature, or to govern the country together, to share the same value is very important. I understood. Yes. We spent 60 minutes, so we'd like to spend a few more minutes because this is very important. And I'd like to broaden the frame of discussion. What is the difference of mission and vision? At the stickers business or at Line, what are the missions or what are the visions for the stickers business? And the difference between mission and vision? Will you explain? Yes. What you can clear is a mission, there is vision, is the image of future. And vision is beyond the goal. It may not be one. The vision, how are we going to create the vision? We are a community-like company, and as we have more people, the vision may change or vision may increase. Likewise, communities share the values and vision, but if we have a vision for programmers and programmers work really hard and want to live a happy life forever, that is a company that we want to be. It's a community, so it can be very inward. That is a vision that we share and people gather to that vision. But we have a variety of programmers, not just one type of programmer, and some programmer may want to work like this and the other may want to work differently, and the individuals have different visions. The collection of vision is our community's vision. The people come first, the people driven to form a vision. That's how we think about it. The mission, on the other hand, there is a leader. What the leader wants to accomplish is a mission. The mission does not usually increase. If there is another mission, that means there is another leader. There are missions by leader or by mission, there are teams. And vision is a collection of individuals, and the people gather and they are aligned to one vision. So the team comes first, and there are a variety of people with a variety of skills and form a team, and they are aligned to one goal in the beginning. And the people gather as a result of that. Maybe individual will share the same goal, and that will become a vision, right? Whatever a community is, a community starts from a team. Yes. With a metaphor of the game, the mission is to beat the evil. Beat the evil. When the mission is accomplished, next comes perpetual peace. Or to execute an improvement. Maybe that's the difference between the mission and vision. Yes, and also live peacefully. That's a vision. I see. To live peacefully, is it a mission or vision? It's a vision. To beat evil, is it a mission or vision? It's a mission. And if we can form a community where people live peacefully, if there is any inhibitor that inhibit living peacefully, form a team and address the issue. That's our style. So there is a community and people want to live happily, and if there is any evil who will prevent people from living peacefully, maybe the team will address the issue, or a new epidemic. There is a new epidemic and the team is formed to solve the epidemic. But the big frame is that people want to live happily and peacefully as a community, yes. If there is an evil, or in case of new epidemic, recruit the crews for the boat and go solve the problem, right? I understood that very well. Lastly, now that we understood the difference between the team and community, living peacefully alone will not allow us to live in capitalist society. There are many stakeholders. To begin with, to whom does a company belong to? How do we balance the team and community? Is it community awareness or is it a function? How to balance them is a challenging point. My assumption is whether the team is right or wrong. What do you think? Is the team correct or wrong? The team and community are just the states. And I just categorized them, neither or either. There may be overlapping in some cases. Neither of them is correct nor wrong. Well, for the business, it is a common knowledge that there is blue ocean strategy and other analytic study, and they're just analyzing the cases, and the people haven't managed in accordance with the classifications or analysis. So, however, it has been managed by manager and management each time. Yes, exactly. Recently, the awareness of community is growing. And since we have a lot of people viewing this session from overseas, in the team, there is growing awareness of community in the team. And the background of growing awareness of community is because of the remote work, because of the COVID-19. And as a community or as a function, we can keep the community running. And the time to go to work has already been reduced. So the productivity is going up, but there is something lacking. And specifically, how can we balance the team and community? Where should we focus? I think that the discussion we have, for instance, the left-hand side figure shows the team's role as a function is growing, and in the middle, this is not necessarily the best, but how can we balance the two specifically, how do we determine the balance between the team and community?
As you mentioned earlier, the environment of the teams or the organizations probably matter in terms of considering how to strike the balance. In your case, well, what is your take on that? Well, certainly, you're very right. You mentioned remote work. When remote work becomes the standard, you find your productivity increase. However, you also see the dilution in the relationship, the diluted sense of belongingness. So you feel like you are a freelancer, not an employee. Well, probably it is characteristic of this modern society, or probably because of the types of jobs that you have. Well, in the ancient times, people would get together and toil in physical labor and never felt that. But now your deliverables are digital. If you submit that, you're paid. But that shouldn't be all that will be necessary for you to continue living, because you work for hours for a company. And can you stand the situation where you have no relationships? Well, even for us who work in front of computers all the time, we cannot work like computers. We have to assume there is a relationship with other people, because social being as human beings are. So the sense of being connected is a part of the reward that you get out of your work. So, since it is a team, you are expected to offer some skills. Well, certainly that works in the limited time frame, but with that some sense of ties with others, people would leave. So it's not the balance between teams and community. I think it's a relationship of inclusion. That is, the community as a platform on which teams are built, or within community, teams are built. Many startups have teams and communities as something which perfectly match and align. But as you grow as a company, teams are built for different lines of business, but then the company becomes a community, including those teams and LOBs. If you grow further, a large community of a company may have multiple smaller communities. And those people with the same mission will form a team to do the job. But then there is always a sense of belongingness. So the teams and community are not put side by side. On the community platform, teams can be built or teams can be disbanded, because the members can always come back to the community. If you want to run a new business, I think this is a very effective way of running your organization, because when you try to do something new, the failure is a norm. When your project fails and your team is disbanded, you don't want your relationship to disappear altogether. If you can all come back to the community, you can try something new. And you can be motivated to form a new team to tackle new projects. So having this community as a platform, you get the sense of being safe to do new things, the psychological safety. Now, this term is often misunderstood. Some people think that having the environment where people are in good terms and friendly would offer psychological safety. That is not true. Psychological safety comes from the environment which is tolerant to failures. Even if you fail, you are not punished. That's where psychological safety comes from. So, the environment of a community probably has the psychological safety to encourage people to try something new. I see. So it's a receptacle or platform where people can try new things. So basically, it's a relationship. The relationship is inclusion. The community as a base, which can also grow larger or grow smaller. But then within that community, you have teams. And then some teams may eventually form smaller communities. That's right. Well, the startups may have the teams and community overlapping perfectly, but then you start to have different directions. For certain services, you may want to have larger community, and for other services, you may have some products in teams instead of a community. Well, it's kind of interesting to have both vertical and horizontal perspectives, but eventually, I guess it all boils down to the business environment where you are in. How did your product play in the market at the time the market is becoming matured? Or there may be some very intensive competition in the market. I guess that also makes a difference in the balance between teams and communities. So the horizontal perspective as well as vertical perspective may be interesting because we as workers may have treaded certain histories, and products also treaded certain histories, and may be interesting to take the both perspectives. Well, thank you for that. Now, I think we're running out of time, very close to 40 minutes that's given to us. I wish we had another 40 minutes to talk to you. Actually, I prepared some materials for that, but I guess we have to wrap up in the next 2 minutes or so. Now, we had a very good discussion in terms of how to look at communities. Since COVID-19, the awareness for community has come to the fore, as Kuranuki-san mentioned earlier. And your blog post was really informative and educational. Actually, I'm responsible for a line of business. It's a business team. So basically, we set the goals. However, if we see the sense of community diluted, maybe the top management should become aware of that and make necessary decisions. Exactly. That's where sensitivity of the top management counts, I think. Right. Not easy, though. Now, 1 more minute, so would you leave us the last message? Certainly. Well, it's not the play on words, just talking about teams and communities. Probably you found my blog post interesting because probably you try to associate these concepts to your own organization. What would be the right approach? There is no right answer. It's just the new concept, which is like a food for thought for a new inspiration to think about your organizations. Management is never easy. I hope you can continue working on this. Great, thank you. We sort of rushed through, but this is the end. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it.